look over here. We've got a whole bunch of sleeping lions, and this is generally what they do in the middle of the day. So we've got a whole bunch of them. It's about 5 adults, so 5 big mommies with all sorts of little youngsters and everything all in the mix there. And look how they're rolling over and just enjoying the afternoon sleep. Everybody's probably been very busy during last night, and so they're getting as much rest as they can. So we're going to sit here, and when you do come back to us, I'm sure we'll still have some sleeping cats for you. But in the meantime, let's go over to Tristan, who I think has got a bird to show you. Yes, everybody, and we are back with the lions, and all of a sudden, they've started to wake up. They've all been stretching, they've all been doing a little bit of yawning, and maybe they're going to start moving around. Byron asking a question, what do lions eat? Byron, lions eat some of the buck that walk around here, and this group of lions, they like to eat buffalo in particular. They very much enjoy eating buffalo, so maybe one of the mommy lions there has got the smell of some buffalo in the area. Maybe that's why she's woken them all up, and she's saying, right, come on crew, let's get moving. But in the background, she's just laid down as well. So maybe it's a false alarm. Maybe they just want to get a little bit of exercise, just moving from place to place. But they're all starting to yawn a little bit, like you do when you wake up after a long snooze. Very relaxed. But they're all starting to wake up now. Now this group of lions is all part of a big team. Like if you play in a soccer team or an American football or baseball, everybody needs to work together if you want to win the game. Now these lions need to work together in order for them to get food. Dakota asking the question, why do lions stick their tongue out when they roar? Well, I think it's the same as if you want to sing as loud as you can. Sometimes you do stick your tongue out as well, because it just helps you make more noise. So I think they just open their mouths and their tongue comes out when they roar. But when they were opening their mouths now, it was for yawning. And you see what this mommy lion is doing. There we go. See how that one was yawning? That's a little youngster. But what they're also doing as well is they're cleaning themselves. So very often after they wake up, they start to lick their paws and they clean themselves all over. They're very clean animals, cats are. And I'm sure if you've got a kitty cat at home, you would also see that they do that. They lick their paw and they wipe their head with it, because it's difficult for them to lick their heads. So they lick their paw and then they wipe their paw over their head. Very clever. So this team that we have here of lions, they will all work together to get food. They also help to chase any hyenas away that might come and bother them. And with them yawning now, it seems like we might be lucky and we might see them moving off, and then we can follow them. Now, if Senzo goes a little bit off to the side, we can see the big daddy lion over here, and he's also just starting to wake up. He was sleeping soundly a minute ago, but now, with all the females waking up, Antoine asking the question, why do they have a tuft of hair at the end of their tails? Well, Antoine, that's a very good question. They do use that to help each other follow each other through the long grass, and they also use the black on the back of their ears. You see those spots? It's the same as that black tuft of hair on the end of their tail. Now, when they're moving through the thick grass, they all look very camouflaged, and you can't see them. So they use that to be able to follow each other when it's difficult to see in the long grass. Now, I'm sure you would have seen The Lion King cartoon movie, and these are all like Nala, who was the mommy eventually. I think she was one of the younger ones, but the daddy lion over there, he's like Simba, who grows up to be the big daddy lion. See how they're still cleaning each other, cleaning themselves, and sometimes they clean each other as well. That's all part of the team working together. And that daddy lion over there, he's got a lot of hair around his head, and that shows that he's one of the big daddies, and it also helps to protect him. If he has to fight against hyenas or other lions, he's got lots of hair to help protect his neck. Like you would wear in American football, where you put a brace around your neck. This is like a natural brace for the lions. There he looks at us a little bit, but he still does look very tired. I don't think he really wants to wake up just yet. He's looking a little bit irritated with all the girls waking up and making a fuss. But he doesn't want to leave them because he knows if they go off, they're probably going to find food. So he wants to follow them. Okay, so from one group of animals to another, I think Steph has found you a little nest.
To the denim.
Yes, everybody, and that big daddy lion, he's gotten up. But now look what this little youngster has found. When he picks it up, there we go, he's got himself a tortoise. Now, it's quite difficult for him to be able to eat that tortoise because the tortoise is inside the shell. And this is a young lion, and he doesn't know that it's quite difficult for him to get in. Whoop, yep, he dropped the ball and he nearly fell out the tree. And you can see he's looking a little bit silly, isn't he? Yeah, and looks like he might be a little bit stuck. I'm sure he's going to be embarrassed after this. Juliana asking the question, why do they climb on trees? Well, lions don't generally climb in trees. They're not as good as leopards going up a tree. And as you could see when that one nearly fell off the tree, they're not the best climbers. So they will climb up a little bit on the trees to be able to see if there's some animals in front or if they're trying to steal some meat from a leopard. But generally, lions don't climb very well at all. So they've just moved a little bit off in front of us, and I think we're just going to catch up a little bit with them. So let's go forward, because they're all moving around a little bit, and maybe we'll see some action. Amber asking the question, why are the lions so thin? Well, Amber, they're thin because they are practicing every day to try and catch animals, so they are very fit. They're always running around when they're not sleeping. So we'll see here why they are so thin, because I'm sure these youngsters are going to get up to no good, like this one over here, who is still trying to play with that tortoise. He's trying to get inside of it, but he hasn't quite learned just yet that a tortoise is very difficult to eat because of that hard shell that he's got. So they've all started to get up and move a little bit around, and it's all getting very exciting because maybe we're going to see them do something special and not just fall out of trees. See there, the youngsters starting to play a little bit. Domashe asking the question, why are their teeth so sharp? Well, for them to get food, they do need to be able to have sharp teeth so that they can kill the animals that they're going to eat. So it's very important for them to have very long, sharp teeth because they don't want to let an animal suffer. So those teeth help them to bite the animal, and then when they need to eat, it helps them to be able to cut the meat and be able to eat. So they're still moving on a little bit, and let's keep going on a little bit forward, and we keep seeing where they're going. We wonder if they're going to find some other animals where they're moving, or if they're just going to go to another place and go and sleep under a tree. But one of them has decided to climb on another tree, but I'm going to get into a better position here so that we can see these lions on the tree. But in the meantime, let's go over to James with his rover. Yes, and the youngsters, they've been climbing up on the tree, playing around a little bit, being very silly. But this one, you can see he's actually sharpening his nails a little bit on the tree as well. But he doesn't have the best balance, and they have been falling around. Layla asking the question, how heavy are lions? Now, the females, or the mommy lions, when they get very big, they're at about 120 kilograms, which is about 250 pounds. And if we had to put that into something that you can liken that to, it's probably one of the biggest people that you've ever seen. That's how big or heavy the mommies are, and the daddies. Now I'm just getting out the way so that you can see him nicely. And the daddy lions, they are double that size, so nearly 500 pounds the daddy lions will be. But these little youngsters, they're about half the size of the biggest person that you've ever seen, and they're still growing. But they will grow big like mom and dad one day. But for the time being, they're nice and young, and they're very playful and like to fall out of trees. Now, they're walking a little bit away from us, so in a minute we're going to start and move up over to them. So while we do that, let's go across to Steph, who has got some dung to show you. Okay, so these lions were mobile a minute ago, but they've all come and laid down in a different position, but they are in quite a hunting-like formation. It was almost like they were going to leave the youngsters, and now they're getting up. Looks like we might be in for some business here. There's a couple of warthog running off just to the left of us, and I wonder if they've spotted them. They're running towards us. I'm just going to wait here a little bit. And I'm going to move forward that I can just give us a better shot here. They're running towards the warthog. They've spotted those warthogs, and they're off towards them. And you can tell that they're going to head onto the hunt, because and they're off. Folks, I'm going to just there goes the warthog. The warthog heading up the road, and I think that was a miss. They've all been after it, but I think it was a miss. I saw that warthog disappearing up the road, and I don't think that they were all quite as enthusiastic as they could have been to enable them to make the kill. But that was all quite exciting, and maybe just a little bit of a warm-up for them. So it's very interesting here, folks. This has been confirmed by me in my early stages of identifying these lions in the area as the Nkuhuma pride. Now, this is 5 adult females, and one born in around 2007, 2 born in 2012, and there's a very special one here with amber-colored eyes, and I was able to identify her, but now that they've all sort of shifted around after they went for that warthog, I've lost which one exactly it is. But we'll have a look again if we get to see their faces. And as you can see there from the picture, we're still quite cloudy, and it's an overcast day, not too hot, so it's actually very nice for these lions to be on the move. Now, added to that female that I was mentioning with the amber eyes, there's another one that was born in 2013, and then there's 6 sub-adults which were born last year between May and July, and then there's 2 cubs who were born in August this year, and there's 2 suspected cubs. But I haven't seen any sign of them for the time being. I've only just started to get to know these guys. Beck saying that the girls are on a mission. I totally agree. Now, that was very opportunistic with that warthog coming up the road, but they were very slow to react, and I think it's just because of that afternoon snooze that they were having. They were just starting to get mobile, and at the moment they're just sort of all starting to make their movements, and it seems like the youngsters are hanging back a little bit, as is the big male lion. So it is making for an interesting little while now. And they're all on the cut line, on the fire break, just parallel to us. And in a minute, I might just quickly rush and get ahead of them, because then they're going to come down towards us, because we don't want to lose sight of these females, because once we lose them, very difficult to catch up with them. And as Senzo mentioned to me, even when the females start moving and the youngsters go quiet, that's the time for us to follow the females. So while I reposition, folks, and try and find out what they're going to be up to, let's go over to Tristan, who's found Tingana. Okay, everybody, so this is why it's very important why lions do quite a bit of stretching, especially immediately after they've woken up, because they never know when that kind of opportunistic moment can arrive, like that warthog coming along, and they need to be ready for that chase. Now, I do think that that came a little bit unexpected for them, and that's why they were so unorganized. It's not always that lions will kill what they go after. In fact, they're not fantastic in terms of their kill ratio from the times that they chase. And it sort of seems like we talk about wild dogs being one of the best success rates, and hyenas even being held above that of lions, because once they start to chase, they generally make up that kill, especially with their endurance, and they're normally exhausting animals. Now, just over there, I think that female right at the back is the one that we've been talking about, amber eyes. And if we get lucky, if she stops chasing flies, we might actually get to see her eyes there. You can get a glimpse of it. It's like a much darker amber color to the rest of them. That just gives away a little bit of the identification features of these particular lions. And that's nice for me now. From now on, if I see her, I know it's obviously definitely part of the Nkuhuma pride. And the rest of them have got more of a like dull yellow color, whereas hers is really amber. And there she's looking at us nicely now. So a lovely identification feature, that. As she flops back down and maybe wasn't quite ready to be woken up just yet. And that warthog was very lucky that these lions are so sleepy, because that would have been a nice hors d'oeuvre to the start of the evening. It wouldn't have stood a chance if they were ready, but every warthog has his day, and definitely his day today, running past a lot of lions. So while we sit with these lovely tranquil lions, let's go over to Steph, who's also got something very tranquil. Yes, absolutely. We would love to hear these lions roaring a little bit later, and that's why I'm sitting and waiting with them in anticipation. I think I'm going to probably spend the whole of my drive here, and I just want to respond a little bit more on the question that I had earlier from Antoine, asking me about that tuft on the end of their tail. Now, there's one flicking his tail around. Now, it is used, obviously, to help each other locate in the long grass, but another reason is also with a counterbalance force, very similar to that of cheetah. When they move in one direction at high speed, they throw that tail in the opposite direction, and it does it does help to offset their center of gravity, making for a much easier chase. Now, Senzo's just scanning through the grass there, and I just asked him to go a little bit closer on that little flower, that orangey coloured flower there, very aptly named a lion's eye, which is called as such because of the lovely amber glow that it has, resembling that of a lion's eye. And I think more so this lion that we have in particular in the Nkuhuma pride, called Amber Eyes, and that's a little lion's eye flower, and nicely situated right in amongst where the lions are all taking a snooze again. So they've all gone flat out once more after they were a little bit active when that warthog came along, but maybe it was just because they saw it and they were opportunists as ever. But we've also had quite a few vultures move into the area. I'm sure they maybe have had difficult pickings this afternoon. Maybe there hasn't been much meat around, and they've spotted these lions and just thought they'd come and hang around and hope for the best, which isn't a bad tactic, because if these lions are hungry, there generally will be a bit of meat going around. So we are just going to keep sitting with them. It's always nice just to wait and see with the lions. I just want Senzo just to go over my shoulder here, and you can see these vultures that have landed in the tree. There was about 4 or 5 of them, white-backed vultures. As I said, they all started coming down, and the lions indicated that to us by picking their heads up and looking up to the sky, and they were probably almost thinking, oh really, can't you go and find your own meat? But very good tactic that from the vultures. Just come and hang around a very big group of predators, and sooner or later there's going to be some meat on the go. So not such a bad way of hoping for the best. But there's a few clouds, so it's still nice and cool. We're going to stay here. I think that's pretty much us for the drive. We're not going to move anywhere because there might be some excellent action here soon, although it doesn't look like it at the moment. But we're going to keep looking at these flat cats, and in the meantime, let's go over to Tristan, who also got a pretty flat cat as well. Yes, talking about one scavenger to another, these vultures have all started pulling in now, and it's almost like they know something we don't. But I do think that the reason behind this could be with the fact that we've got quite a lot of cloud cover, and as vultures do, they like to catch the thermals with the rising air, and with it being quite cloudy, it might be difficult for them today. So they might be just putting all their eggs in one basket and saying, I think the best is just to hang around these lions as opposed to surveying the area, which is becoming a bit difficult today with it not being so hot. Obviously, vultures can soar up to massive distances up into the sky, sometimes over 12,000 meters, which is at roughly at about 25 to 30,000 feet. So it is extremely high, and they can, from 1 kilometer or at about just under a mile, they can see a 6-meter object or a 12-foot object. So it's quite incredible, that vast eyesight of theirs. Now, over here, the lions are still lying up, doing what lions do best, but those vultures are still waiting patiently, as are we, that we could potentially get a lovely group family roar before they move off and potentially start a hunt, and we'll also be around if that happens. So I've just also put all my eggs in one basket, as have the vultures, and hoping that we get some action around these lions. So the vultures aren't the only ones relying on the lions moving and hopefully going on a hunt. Now, this Nkuhuma pride, there are a couple of individuals that have got some pretty nasty gashes on them. One had it on its back end, it was one of the sub-adults, and then one of the females has got quite a nasty gash on one of her feet. Now, I'm not too sure what that is all about. Potentially around a bit of a kill site. You know that lions can be quite aggressive towards each other when they feed, and it's almost a little bit like every man for himself or every lioness for herself, and they do need to force their way in, generally after the males have fed. If they know anything about a kill, the lions will the male lions will come in and generally push the females off, or at least off to the side a bit, and they generally take the lion's share, as they say, and then the females would take after them. Now, we've got one of the males here of the Birmingham boys, and he's lying off just to the side there as Senzo finds him. So I'm not sure where the other four are. Now, Umka, very good question that you ask there. Are there any other cats that have a big tuft on the end of their tail? Yes, Umka, and one in particular is that of the cheetah. And that is, as I mentioned before, a very big help in when they are on the chase at full speed, full tilt, and they're turning corners, moving from side to side. They throw their tail in the opposite direction to keep a low center of gravity and keep them centered. Otherwise, it would be easy for them to slip or fall over. So cheetahs are one that have got a very big tuft as that counterbalance. I'm thinking most of the cats actually do have a little bit of a tuft, but the caracal, not so much. They're more of an ambush hunter, staying in the thickets. Leopard, not so much, because also quite a similar sort of habits like a leopard. So it's more the long distance running cats that do it out in the plains, and that's in particular the cheetah and the lions with a nice big thick tuft on the end of the tail. So and they also use it as a good fly swat. When there's lots of flies around, they do throw it and get rid of the flies. Now, I think Senzo has just mentioned that. There we go, that's lovely on the tip of the tail. Thanks, Senzo, for pointing that out. All right, and it's lovely to see that their coats are fantastic looking at the moment, very clean. But speaking of hairy and coats, let's go over to Scott, who's got something else that's quite hairy. Yes, well, the Nkuhuma pride, pretty much like Tingana, haven't done much at all since we last saw them. After that excitement of the youngster nearly falling out the tree, well, he pretty much did fall out of the tree, very embarrassingly so, and that little chase of the warthog, they have now gone to ground once more. And just in the interim, I chatted to one of the guides from one of the lodges in the area, and he says that the other three Birmingham boys are down in Mala Mala, so they're off our boundary. And thank you to the viewers that wrote in and told us that this is Nkuhuma, the male that, obviously not the animal that we're looking at present, but the male that is with the Nkuhuma pride at present. As Senzo moves over and has a look at him there, that is Nkuhuma, which means authority. So his three band of brothers are off down in Mala Mala. So he's taking the safer option of hanging with the girls and waiting for some easy takeaways. Now, we're still trying our luck, as the vultures are, waiting to see if these lions are going to get up anytime soon. You know, it's always a gamble to sit with flat cats, because we could be sitting here for quite a long time and they don't do anything. However, we might move off, and just after we do, they get up and they start doing some fantastic things. So I'm willing to still sit here, see what happens, and, well, even if they don't get up, we've got beautiful light, so we'll stay with them. Annie asking the question, would eating a vulture be harmful to the lions as they eat carrion? Well, I don't think it would be harmful to them, Annie. I just don't think it would be very tasty. However, vultures, opposed to what they look like and what some people think of them. Now, I think Senzo is just going to go over to those vultures there that are sitting in the tree. Now, what a lot of people think is they're dirty, mangy animals, which is quite contrary to what they actually are. They're actually very clean. After they've fed on a carcass, they will generally go immediately down to a body of water and wash their feathers. And they are a lot cleaner than many other birds. As you can see, they don't have feathers on the head and neck area, and this fulfills a couple of functions, one of them being these open patches for helping them find the thermals. Because they're such big, heavy birds, they actually use the updrafts, which are called thermals, and they can actually feel the heat or the cold temperature from these bare patches of skin, and in so doing they know which thermal or which direction to move to stay in the thermals, much like a paraglider does, but he's got a little beeping altimeter which lets him know when he's going up or down. But because the air is see-through, you can't see where these actual thermals are. So the paragliders, the better ones, obviously as they get better, they start to realize which direction to move to get onto the thermals, which then is like an elevator taking them right up into the sky. So that's one of the uses of having that bare patches of skin. Another one, obviously, when they feed on carcasses, they don't get stuck inside. Paula, very good question, asking, do vultures see in color? Now, they do see in infrared or ultraviolet, I can't remember, but I do know that from very high up in the sky, the reason that they can spot a kill or blood is because they can pick out that red color on the ground. So even if a pride of lions had to make a buffalo kill and they drag it under a tree, it's that red color of the blood from the kill site that the vultures actually spot from sometimes over a kilometer or a mile up in the sky. It can literally be up to a mile. And I think that one that just flew over there was indeed a hooded vulture, whereas the rest and the most dominant species that was in the tree there were all white-backed vulture. So I think this hooded vulture feeling a bit left out. H. Lacey asking the question, do vultures kill anything or do they just scavenge? They pretty much are pure scavengers. They're eating carrion and animals that have died, animals that have been killed by predators and any leftovers, etc. So they are not particularly hunters at all. They merely are the cleaners up of the bush and fulfilling a very important part of the ecosystem, because we need these vultures to assist with decomposition. And something that is very interesting indeed is that vultures are both vectors and controllers of anthrax. Now, in the very northern part of the Kruger National Park, they've been conducting a number of studies on vultures to see whether they spread anthrax as far or as largely as a lot of farmers and people in the area believe. But the other thing is that once they feed on an animal or carcass that was infected with anthrax, they digest the anthrax. So in their excrement, it is gone. So that in such a way, they help control anthrax. But obviously, when there's droughts and they go down to water holes and they go and bathe in that water, that is where the spores of anthrax lie, and they can then get that spores onto their feathers. And if they go down to another kill site or another carcass and they feed on that carcass, they then obviously transfer that spores onto the carcass, and in so doing spreading it. So as I say, both vectors and controllers of anthrax, but in the times when they are controlling it, that is absolutely of vital importance because they help help control the spread of it. So that's something very interesting on vultures, and they're still sitting up here watching these vultures, watching the lions. But as we sit here hoping for the lions to do something, let's go over to Tristan and see if anything's happened with Tingana. So while Scott's looking for that chameleon, we've got a little bit of action here, more than we've had in the last half an hour or so. One of the females has just started cleaning herself again. Now, we always just have to watch out when they start doing this, because that yawning and cleaning and stretching are all signs of an imminent move. So always just carry on watching. However, the rest of them are a little bit less active. They're all doing their best and trying to relax harder than the next. All right. In the meantime, let's go over to James, who's got a lovely bird of prey to show you. I don't know what happened there, but we're still back with our very lethargic lions. But having said that, there's been a little bit more movement, and we're hoping that we're going to get a bit of action in the last little bit of the show here, even if they just give us a roar. But regardless of whether they do or not, it's always good to spend time with predators and lions and leopard, whether they're lying flat on their sides, on their back, or on the move. For me, it's always a privilege to be with these iconic animals and getting to know them a little bit better, and just to see their individual characteristics, see some of the youngsters playing around, especially on the trees and falling around. And on the back of this female, I did notice there was a lot of people commenting on this wound. Now, it does look a little bit better than what I'd seen. It's not as raw, even though it is still not a nice looking wound, but it's obviously healing quite nicely, and you see there's almost like that little thin film over the top of it. So for me, it's not as raw as it was. I only saw it on the stream from the other guys, but you see they're coming over and just doing a little bit of reassuring contact with their mates. But that is very good news, that is healing quite nicely. As you can see, she's a little bit tender on that side, and she will obviously not lie on that side, which is a good thing. That will mean that she's be keeping it clean. She's probably been licking it clean, and now it seems to have sealed over a little bit. So yes, and lots of comments coming through that must be quite sore and ouch. Absolutely, but it does look better than what it was. And I must tell you that you will be amazed at how well lions and buffalo can heal after such traumatic experiences and wounds such as that. So I wouldn't worry too much about her. She looks like she's on the road to recovery, and everybody else now seeming to be getting a little bit more active. As I said, a little bit of stretching poses, yawning, and they are all looking quite skinny, folks. Good comments there, and a very good sign that they will be hungry and ready to hunt. So they're starting to get up now, and they are quite close to us, but quite used to the vehicles, quite used to us moving around. So it's absolutely fantastic. I think this line is going to come right past the front of us. So I'll just try and duck out the way that you can see exactly where they are. Look at that, coming right past the vehicle, hey? Very close to us, and what a privilege to be in such close quarters with these amazing animals. Another one coming just to have a sniff of the front of the vehicle here. As she goes past and joins the other two. So once again, there'll be a little bit of movement, and they're not running off just yet, but they're doing that classic stretching poses and getting ready for a night of moving off. Right, so from one group of lethargic lions to Tingana, who's very flat. Let's see what Tristan can tell you about him.